you, Ginger. So I would like to introduce Andrea Marwa, who is first and foremost a parent of a child with hearing loss. But through her family's journey, Andrea has come to wear many hats. She's president of our Illinois Hands and Voices chapter. She's a parent guide with our Illinois Guide by Your Side program. She teaches parent advocacy workshops throughout the state, and just to name a few of those hats. So, Andrea, I'll let you go ahead and take over the call.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, tonight we are talking about transitions. So we're going to focus mainly on that IFSP to IEP. So your child is birth to 3. They're in the early intervention program. They hold an IFSP, which is an individual family service plan. And when they turn 3, their care, their special needs care, will pass over into their school district, their home school district. That will become an IEP, which is an individual education plan. The main difference there is you move from a family plan to an individual plan. But the main component of the transition is just really, really getting all of your information, all of your ducks in a row, so to speak, so that you are ready to educate your district on your child's needs. Keep in mind, hearing loss is about a 3% incidence, so therefore the likelihood of you walking into a school district and them knowing everything that you know about your child's hearing loss is pretty slim. So you are going to be a major, major, major contributor to your IEP team. So the whole crux of this call is to, give you a timeline, basically, and keep in mind that anything that I'm going over tonight, I do have in written form, and I'd be happy to email you whatever it is I am talking about. I just have it's rough. It's not like pretty PowerPoint type thing, but it's definitely available to you if you would like it. And it's a timeline, and it starts from when your child is 2.5 years old, and then we go all the way through until their 3rd birthday. So I'm going to go through that. If anyone has any questions, this is pretty open forum because I'm not just giving you tons and tons of information. So if something seems to be missing, maybe I didn't put it in my wording, I'd be more than happy to address it and say where that might belong in the process. So don't feel that you can't ask a question. Please feel free to do that. Okay, so when your child is between 24 and 29 months, this is the time that you want to start really building your knowledge base. This is when you want to make sure that all of your records are in order, that you've had all the assessments done on your child that you want to get done, and if not, that you start to plan those. So you need to be on your game. You need to know your child's info, top down, back, front, however, you need to know it. This is the biggest time where you need to know it. All the information, what assessments have been done, what is their diagnosis exactly, what is their hearing loss. You should be able to take their audiogram and have it in your head so that you can explain it. So there's a lot that needs to happen, a lot of knowledge that needs to take place. Next step, you need to learn about your school district. You need to find out, are there any current students in that district with hearing loss? What does the school district typically do with a child with hearing loss? These are the types of questions that you need to start asking. Best place to start is in their special ed department. Everyone has one. There's a special ed director in every district. So you want to start getting in touch with them. You're going to get plenty of different things. You're going to go to the big districts, and they're going to have pamphlets on all their different services and all their different major disability categories and all of this. It's kind of like the brochure heaven. Then there's going to be districts that have one person that sits behind a desk, and that's your main go-to person, and they're going to be they're going to answer your questions. They may not have a pamphlet or a booklet or anything like that. So you need to find out what that is. How much do they know? How much are you going to have to educate them on? So that's where you want to start. Learn about it. Who are the players? Who are you going to be dealing with? Who's the principal at your home school? With us, my daughter who has hearing loss was my oldest daughter, so I didn't have the benefit of having kids that had already gone through the school, so I knew who the principal was and things like that. So those are things that you need to determine. Do I need to know that? Do I already know that? Whatnot. The next step that you need to do in that time frame is learn your rights. This is my forte. This is what I do. This is what I love. And I remember going through it when my daughter was about to turn 3, and this is when I learned about it, and I thought, oh, what a benefit to know this stuff. There's a book out there, a rights law book called From Emotions to Advocacy. I highly recommend it to everybody. Read it, reread it. It's made so that anybody can understand what is being said. It is not disability specific. It is legal specific. It is advocacy specific. It's not going to touch on all hearing loss issues. It's not going to touch on all autism issues. It's going to touch on special need issues. So it's an excellent book to start with. Start familiarizing yourself with the Illinois State Board of Education website, because federal law is IDEA, which is Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. The state of Illinois has its own policies as well. It can enhance the IDEA. It cannot make it lesser. So go through the Illinois State Board of Education website. If you go on the main page, you'll see where you need to go. There's lots of information for parents. You can read the legal verbiage word for word on that website if you choose to. So familiarize yourself with that. And then take an IEP training course or an advocacy training course. You can do them online. I hold them throughout the state, so you can contact me and ask me when my next one is going to be. If you have a parent guide, contact that parent guide. That parent guide can start helping you with that information. If you don't have a parent guide, contact Carrie Ballion at the email that she provided you at the beginning of the call. She can get you set up with a parent guide. All of the parent guides are well-versed in IDEA law and in advocacy training. If they are not, they know resources to get information or resources to provide you to get the information. So important, you need to know your legal rights. The more you know going in, the higher your success rate is going to be. Attend informational conferences. If there are any conferences coming up in your area, whether it be a hearing loss conference or just a disability conference, try to make it. You'll be surprised at how much information you can pull from each of these little things. You may go to one and it's maybe a 2-hour presentation on your special ed child's rights or whatever it might be. And you might know a lot of the stuff that's said in those, but you'll always have something to take back with you, some bit of knowledge. I've been teaching these classes for 6 years now, and I still go to other people's courses when they teach them just to see, okay, how would they explain that? Maybe that's a better way for me, or, oh, I didn't know that, and so then I go back home, I research, make sure that the information they provided was correct, and then I insert it into my training session. So these are the types of things that you want to start to get to know. The next step during that process when your child is 24 to 29 months is to create a binder of all appropriate information. You need to start gathering everything to one place so that it's easy for you to find, and so that is going to be your binder to take to any of your meetings. So if you have meetings with schools, you have everything in your hand. If they ask for something, you can pull it out, provide it to them to make a copy, put it back in. It's all in one place. You need to make sure everything in that binder is up to date. You need to make sure that your most current IFSP is in there, any assessments that have been done on your child are in there, any medical issues or treatments are in there, anything that you may need to touch on in a meeting that you would have with the school district. So that is important as well. Also, enhance your knowledge regarding your child's hearing loss and the mode and method of communication they use. Remember at the beginning of the call, I said that we are a 3% incidence rate. With that said, the chances of the person that you're going to be sitting down with knowing the information that you know is pretty slim. So you want to make sure you have all of your information ready. You do ASL. You know you're going to need an interpreter. How do you go about getting an interpreter? These might be things that seem to you like, well, shouldn't the school district know that? Yeah, they should, but they might not. And how beneficial is it if you go in there with that information? Hey, maybe you can try this place. So these are the types of things you want to know. If your child has if they're oral and they have a specific type of therapy that they utilize, know that when you are going into a school district, it's not really easy to get a specific type of speech therapist. However, it is very legitimate to ask for communication from your old speech therapist who might provide a specific type of therapy to that new educational speech therapist within your school district. So keep that in mind. Try and, get all of that information together so that you're ready to go in there with that as well. If your child has any particular medical conditions, a lot of our children are not just hearing loss. A lot of our children are deaf plus is the new term for that, meaning that they do have hearing loss, but they have other issues as well, other medical conditions, other diagnoses that need to be understood so that you can inform the school district. You want to make sure that they have every piece of information that they could possibly need on your child, because not only do you need to be well informed, they do too in order to be a good, valid IEP member, a good member of that team. The more they know, the better off they are. And the reason you want to start getting it now is because you don't want to provide all of this information on the day of your IEP. You want to start providing it sooner than that. So when does that happen? Well, when your child is 30 months old, that is when the transition process begins from your EI coordinator to your school district. Typically, that is how it works. They will contact your school district and say, we have a child who's coming in. They're 30 months old right now. They're going to be transitioning. We need to start the process. They will provide the paperwork. They will provide the disability codes and everything that the district needs to know. And there's where the process literally starts. That is when you want to start. By now, you should know who your players are. Who is the person that's going to get that information? You can ask your EI coordinator, who is it that you contact at the school district? It may just be a secretary, but that secretary obviously provides this information to someone. So if it's not easy for you to find out, who your contact is going to be, these are ways that you can do that. So once that transition happens and they've passed the information on to your school district, you're going to either get a phone call or a letter just to say, we got your information, we'd like to set up a meeting, and usually these meetings are called, there can be called assessment meetings or domain meetings, and that is when your child will come into the school district so that the school district can assess your child and determine from their perspective what the child's needs are. So this is great. This is what you want. If that call doesn't happen around the 30-month mark, that's when you want to contact your early intervention person and say, hey, have you made this transition happen? I haven't heard from anyone. Determine where they're at in the process. Okay, let's see. So now you've received the initial call. The district has contacted you in some form saying, you know what, we got your information. Here's the next process. Here's the next step that we're going to take. Once a meeting with the district's been set up, send a letter to the special ed director or coordinator. Now, this is a recommendation. All of these things that I'm giving you are recommendations. They're going to be personality specific. You need to be comfortable with whatever avenue you take to introduce yourself or to communicate with your school district. So it's nice to be able to give a pre-introduction to whomever you're going to be working with or whoever is going to be the main player, excuse me, in your IEP meeting. So say, for instance, it's the special ed coordinator within your district. You want to try to get your name in there. You want to try to give them a little personal information on your child. Oh, hi, my name is Andrea. I'm going to be coming into the district. My daughter, Samantha, is, turning 3, and she is profoundly deaf, and this is the type of intervention she's had so far. We're so excited that we're coming into the school district. Is there anything that I should know or whatnot? Just a really nice, hey, I'm here and I kind of know my stuff. And you're not pushing it in their face, but it's a great way. It's easier than the first time that they meet you at the IEP meeting. So but that's, again, going to be a personality choice. Maybe that's not a spot for you. Maybe a more comfortable thing is to find out the person's email and just shoot an email and say, my daughter is going to be transitioning into your school district. she has deafness, ADHD, blah, blah, blah. You won't name them off. Is there anything that I should know? Is there anything that I can do to assist in the process? I have my appointment scheduled with your elementary school at such and such a location. Is there anything specific I should bring? That's an easy get to know you. You know, you're just trying to get more information. So whatever makes you more comfortable. What it does is it lets them know that you really, really are interested in being an advocate for your child and a member of the IEP team. You're not just sitting back waiting for the paperwork to happen, showing up to the meetings they tell you to show up. You're actively participating in the process. All right, so now we're at the crunch time. Your child's now turning 31 months. So between that time and 32 months, you want to start reviewing your the pop-up IEP. If anyone has not viewed that, I strongly recommend it. It's a great source. It's through the Hands and Voices National website. You can access it from the Illinois Hands and Voices website as well. If you go to the homepage, Ill Hands and Voices, it's ilhandsandvoices.org. Go down to the bottom right-hand side, and there's a section that says, do you feel like you don't know what to say at an IEP? If you click on that, that will take you directly to the main Hands and Voices website, which brings you to the famous, most people know about this, pop-up IEP. Now, what that pop-up IEP looks like is basically it's a bunch of boxes, and you go through those boxes, and you choose a question. So here, I'm going to pop on it right now, and I'm going to go through one. So here's some good responses. If you get a question for, here's a good one that happens in the Chicagoland area frequently. We assess your child using only teacher observation. Now, just so you know, that typically doesn't happen in the transition time, but it does happen once your child is in the district, and that is something that if you read the From Emotions to Advocacy or you go to my course, you'll find out that that is not a legitimate way to assess a child who has a disability, that there's ways to get them, to convince them to do more of an assessment than teacher observation. So keep that in mind. But I'm going to go ahead and use this one. We assess your child using only teacher observation. So it pulls it up, and then it gives a bunch of information. It says what the problem is. It says when you are working on measurable goals for your child's IEP and the assessment of those goals keeps being written as teacher observation, as the only way to measure progress, you will never have concrete proof of student achievement. Keeps going on and on and on. And then down at the bottom, it states what the law actually stipulates that will protect your child under this type of situation. So, these are great tools for you. Go in, look at all of them. You may never come across any of these questions. You might come across 5 of these questions. And how many are there? There are 16 questions. So look at that when you have time and familiarize yourself with that because it really is a great tool to utilize. All right. Get to know your school district. Again, here you've found out who you're going to talk to. You've sent kind of an introduction letter or an email or you've called on the phone or whatever. Now you need to find out who's who, okay? So you know who the director is. Who is the person at your school? Who is the social worker? Who's the psychologist? Who's the speech pathologist? Do they have a hearing itinerant? Who is that? The hearing itinerant could be your best bet because they're the ones that are going to work with your child. Most districts have 1, 2, maybe 3 hearing itinerants that are employed within their district that work with all of their students with hearing loss, regardless of whatever method or modality your child uses, they will work with your child. So get to know that person especially. That's someone you want to know well and get them on your side or, find out what their thoughts are. And if you feel like, whoa, they are way on the other side of the page than I am, then you need to start working on them to get them closer to your thoughts and what you really would like to see for your child. And an important part of that, and I can't go into huge detail on this, but an important part of what you want for your child is we have to try to be realistic because sometimes what we may want for our child is not a necessity. So there's there's a time where you have to determine, what can I live with and what can I live without, and know that before you go into your meeting. So that is something, if you do the other steps that I've told you, you take IEP classes, you have a parent guide to bounce these things off of, those things should be well ingrained in you by the time you go to that first meeting to protect you. The biggest thing that I'm a firm believer in is that you need to protect the parent-school relationship. It's extremely important because once you mess it up, it's really, really hard to fix. So you never want to go in there with both guns blazing and ready to pick a fight and this is going to be my way or the highway. You want to go in there. You want to try not to get mad if they're saying or doing things that you don't agree with. You want to ask open-ended questions. You want them to explain to you why they're thinking the way they are thinking, and be willing to answer questions for them too. Those are the types of things that you need to keep in mind in these relationships. Okay, visit the website as well as the district office if possible so that you can get to know a lot of information. District websites have tons of information. So if your district has a website, which I'd say quite a big majority do, then go out there. Take a look around. Familiarize yourself. Most of them have district websites and then individual school websites as well. You can determine who the staff is at any individual school on a lot of these websites. So you can determine, okay, do they have a hearing itinerant? What's that person's name? And chances are their email address will be there as well. Do they have a speech pathologist? What's her name? His name? Where are they? So those are the types of things you want to look at and try to understand. Again, if you have a parent guide, which you should, meet with that parent guide to go over any questions or strategies to utilize. They're a great sounding board. They're great to do role-playing with. As silly as that sounds, role-playing your IEP meeting is an amazing benefit because then you're going in there, you've already gone through the stress of role-playing because that is stressful with someone, but that person's also kind of guided you and said, that's great, but maybe we could try it this way. Or no, that's perfect. Just do it exactly like that if they ask you. And they'll also give you strategies. When you go to your meeting, don't go alone. When you go to your meeting, have a pad of paper to write things down. Have a list of questions written so that stress that overwhelms all of us at these meetings doesn't overwhelm us so much that we forget everything that we want to ask because it's written. We have it there. So those are good tools as well. All right, so now your child is 32 months old. This is the typical time for a transition meeting. So this is the typical time when a school will want to have your child in their building doing assessments. Make sure that when you're in that transition meeting that you're taking notes, that you're understanding what they are saying, that you're understanding what they are doing, that you're hearing if they're saying, oh, yeah, all of our kids that have hearing loss do this. Don't address it at that particular moment. Don't say things like, well, the law stipulates that my child has the right to an individual plan, because that's not the time or place to teach them law. It's the time or place to gather information. Make sure that, you find out what are your district options for deaf, hard of hearing programs. What do they offer? What types of classes? Are they in their home school? Do they go to another school? They should be telling you about the state school, ISD. They should be telling you all of that information. Gather. This is an information gathering session. And then find out who's who at the meeting. If there's an introduction that goes around, a lot of times they'll have a sheet that goes around. Everyone signs it. Their names are typed. Perfect. But feel free. If someone's sitting at the table and you don't know who that person is, ask them. I'm sorry, I didn't get your name. I'm Mary Lou. Oh, Mary Lou, what is it that you do? And they'll tell you, I'm an occupational therapist. I'm going to be, assessing your child today on such and such. So those are good questions to ask. Don't sit there and wonder who someone is at your meeting. You should know who everyone is there. Okay, once your child is approximately 33 months old, you want to start observing all of the programs that are offered. Now, here's where I state all of them. Even if you know deep down inside there is no way that would be a program that you would put your child in, if they suggest it or they mention it, go and observe it. You can't say no to a program if you don't know the reasons why, if you don't know why the answer is no. If you go there and observe it, and you come up with legitimate reasons why that's not a good program for your child, then you have done your homework. You've done your background work. So if they have self-contained classroom they want you to visit, if they have mainstream preschool they want you to visit, if there's a private placement that they utilize, a co-op school that they utilize, you want to visit, if there's a school that you want your child to go to, you also want to go and visit that. Even if your child is currently attending that school, you want to go and you want to sit and observe. I have a observation checklist. You're free to it. All you need to do is email me again at that illhandsandvoices@gmail.com, and I will provide you with that. Just say, I want the observation checklist, and how I designed this is down the left. It has a bunch of things to look for, and across the top it has like 4 boxes for you to put each place that you visit. So I visited the co-op. I visited the mainstream school. I visited a self-contained classroom. And then you go down and you answer those questions, and then you can kind of cross-reference and check things out that way. It's a great tool to utilize. You sit in the classroom, you're observing. Here's the thing that happens. Sometimes districts say, oh, we can't do that. We can't allow you to observe. Then that's when you need to say, I can't possibly, as a member of my child's IEP team, I can't possibly help in making a decision for my child if I can't even understand what the program has to entail. There has to be a way you can let me into the program. So you need to be persuasive. You need to talk them into it. And if they don't do it, that's when you need to find out, okay, I need some legal assistance here. How can I get into this classroom to view it? I can't make, or you can just say to them, the answer is going to be no. I'm not going to say yes to this placement if I can't even see how my child will be educated in that placement. So these are things that can come up, and these are things that you need to be ready for, and not be ready to say, oh, okay, so I can't view it, and that's it. Nope, don't stand for that. You need to find a way. There has to be a way for you to view it. You're a member of the team, and sometimes we need to give soft reminders to the district that parents are they are as important as the director of special ed in those meetings. So keep that in mind as well. You need to start working on that binder with all the information in it. Other information that you can put in there is letters of recommendation, placement recommendation. So for instance, your child's working with a certain type of therapist. You want that person to send an email. Say, for instance, you want to do cued speech, and you've been working with a cued speech teacher, and you want the district to understand that that is where you want your child educated. You want that person who's an expert, who's been working with your child, to write a letter of recommendation for cued speech education for this reason, this reason, and this reason. So it's like a letter of recommendation for your child to get a job. You want them placed in the correct placement because of this, this, and this. And it's easier when you have backing to go in there and say that than when you're just coming in as a parent and saying, well, this is what we've chosen, this is what we'd like. If you have an expert that says, they chose this at age 1, this child has been utilizing this type of education, he has shown great improvements, he has blah, 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 give them all the information, that is more impactful than you just going in as a parent saying, this is what we want. So keep that in mind, too. Start sending thank you notes or emails to the transition meeting participants. So all the people that you saw a month before in that transition meeting, and there's a lot typically in those first transitions. There's typically OT. There's going to be a developmental therapist of sorts, a psychologist. There's going to be a school nurse. There's going to be a speech pathologist, hearing itinerant, general education teacher. There's a full gamut of people that they typically will have into those meetings. And those are usually going to be determined by whatever information goes from what you had in early intervention to what you may need in the school district. So if your child received any OT in early intervention, chances are they're going to assess in an OT assessment in the mainstream at that transition meeting. All right, so now your child is 34 months. We're getting close. And now you have to really start preparing for your IEP meeting. You want to review the From Emotions to Advocacy book that you've already read. You want to know how easy, at this point, you should know how easy or difficult your transition is going to be. It's not typical that you walk into a meeting thinking that you're going to get one thing and you get something completely different on the negative aspect. Sometimes you walk into your meeting thinking, there's no way they're going to do what we want them to do. And next thing you know, they're like, yeah, we'll do that. They're signing off on everything. And, wow, that was the easiest IEP meeting you ever had. That does happen. But at this point, you should really have a general understanding because you've had conversations with people. You kind of let them know where you're headed, what your interests are in your child. You haven't specifically said things like, I want my child to go to XYZ school. But you have said, I want my child educated in this manner. You know whether their district can provide that type of education because you've viewed their classes and their programs. So you know what you're going to be asking for and whether they have it in-house or not. Another thing to keep in mind, when you have viewed all of the classes and programs that they have, you want them to also view any program that's outside of their district that you may be interested in. If your child is attending a private school at this point, you want your district to go and view that private school. You want them to see how your child is educated, to see what program they're in, because the same as you, they're not going to make a decision sight unseen either. So make sure that has happened as well. When you're doing all those observations in that meeting, you want to say, that's great, I want to see all these programs, but we would like for you to go and see our program too, the program that our child is currently enrolled in. So keep that there in the forefront and make sure that you get them to do that. And if they refuse to do it, then at the meeting, when they say, no, that's not a good placement for you, you can question, can you explain to me how you can know that's not a good placement when no one from the district has observed the program? You always want to you want to ask them why. Can you tell me why that's not a good placement if you haven't even observed it? Can you tell me that that's not a good idea? Let them tell you why they think it's not a good idea. Don't tell them, you think it's not a good idea because you don't want them to be educated in this, or this. That's not the way to do it. You want them to tell you. So you ask them open-ended questions to tell you. That's a good way to go in. You're being a good team player that way. You're actually asking for information. You want to know. You want to understand where they're coming from as well. Okay. You can write what we call a preference for placement letter. So you try and get all those letters of recommendation from the professionals that have worked with your child. And then you want to write a letter to your school district and provide it to them about a week prior to your IEP, 10, 15 days prior, stating that we have observed all the programs within the district. We feel that X program is the best for our child. These are the reasons why. So that way, you're not blindsiding them with your decision either. You've provided this to them prior to the day that you sit down. So they're expecting it. They get it. You're not walking in there. They're ready to place you over here in the Liberty School, and you're like, no. We want to be over here at the Bell School. So you want to make sure, hey, I've given them the information. They understand where I want to be. It's not a big mystery to them when you walk in and say, this is the placement we want, and this is why. And having all of that information and having the factual information as to why is extremely important. Okay, so you're in your child's 35 months now. They're within 4 weeks of their birthday. Everything's going to be working up now. Everything's going to be happening. This is when it's stressful. It's kind of like that month before your wedding. It's calm before the storm. You have that time where you book your banquet hall and you find your dress, and then you rest for like 8 months. And then a month or two prior to your wedding, you're basket case again, getting your dress fitted and going to cake tasting and food tasting, all of that, everybody's lined up. So this is kind of like that. But you don't have to wear a white dress to the IEP meeting. But it's like that where all of a sudden, you've done all your work, and now all the stressful stuff happens. This is go time. This is when you're going to go to the meeting and the decision is going to be made. You want to make sure that kind of want to work with someone, whether it be a friend, whether it be you and your husband sitting down, whether it be a therapist that you've worked with, your parent guide through Guide by Your Side. You want someone that you can bounce ideas off of, because not everything is going to be crystal clear. There may be things that you're like, oh, how should I word that, or how should I state that that's what I really want for my child? You want to make sure that you sit with someone that you can bounce those ideas off. Have them written down, and then utilize that time to actually do a little bit of role playing. Okay, what do I do if they say this? I fear that they're going to say this. How should I respond? Someone from the outside looking in can be more rational in the answer that they would provide you to give to that person. Their heart is not in it. Their heart might be in it for you, but their heart is not in it like it is for you. So utilize that. Utilize people. Call me. Hands and Voices, that's what we're here for. If you call the 800 number through the Hands and Voices website, I'll help you with that stuff. Get a parent guide. I strongly urge, if you don't have one, to get one. They can help you with all of that as well. Make sure that that notebook is completed. You have all of your recent assessments, anything that's been done with your child. 10 days prior to your IEP, you should also have any assessments from the school. Anything that the school has done, any assessments that the school has done on your child should be in your hands 10 days prior to the IEP, 10 school days. So make sure that you're counting down, you have it marked on your calendar, and on that 11th day you haven't gotten anything, make a phone call. I just want to let you know, I still haven't received this assessment. Is there any way that I can come in and pick it up? You want to make sure that you get it. Can you email it to me? Whatever it might be, you need time to go through that. You need time to digest that information. And it might be written in a way that you just don't understand. And you need to find a resource where you can understand that. It might be calling your parent guide. It might be calling a therapist that maybe you're working with a speech pathologist already. They'll be able to give you any information on maybe a speech assessment that's been done through the district. So make sure that you have that. You're going to need those 10 days, so take those 10 days to have that information. Go in and review that pop-up IEP again. Gives you great answers. Even if the questions are a little different, some of the answers can be the same. So go in there and review that. Review again that From Emotions to Advocacy book. Go in there and determine, where just touch on some stuff. You don't have to reread the whole book, but you'll know at that point what it is that you need to brush up on. Now your child is 36 months old, and your IEP meeting should happen very, very close to your child's birthday. It has to happen before, because when your child turns 3, unless you're in some kind of legal battle with your district, the day they turn 3, they go to your school district. They are no longer under EI providing. If you are still fighting, EI will continue to hold your child, but you should be moving over to your school district. If problems like that arise, that's when you do need extra help. That's when you do need to contact us at Hands and Voices or Guide by Your Side or someone to assist you with the matter at hand. So all practical purposes, everything's going well. Age 3, boom. You could have your meeting 5 days before your child's 3rd birthday. For the next 5 days, you're still under your IFSP through early intervention. But on that 3rd birthday, they should be starting in the next program. All right. So the IEP meeting takes place typically 1 week to 5 days prior to your child's 3rd birthday. At least one parent guardian should, both parents should go to the meeting. One parent should be the listener. One parent should be the note taker. You're going to know which one works best. In our scenario, when we go to our IEP meetings, my husband and I have always gone through every single one of them together. We walk into every single IEP meeting, and as we walk in, I say, okay, I'm going to sit, and I'm not going to say anything. You're going to do all the talking, and I'll just be there in case you need help. Okay. So we go and we sit down, and my husband doesn't say anything, and I talk the whole meeting. So you're going to find out what works for your family and, how you can get through these IEP meetings. And if you're the more emotional one, it's fine for you to talk. But when you know that your emotions are going to take over, you need to do one of two things. You need to have some kind of a way to tell your husband, hey, I'm losing my cool here, so that he can take over, or you need to just say, you know what, I need to take 5. And there's no legal reason why you cannot take 5 minutes during an IEP, even if they're looking at their watch. If you need to take 5 to collect yourself because things aren't going exactly the way they are. You need to go out, you need to refresh and take deep breaths and say, okay, what is the reason that I'm here? It's not because I don't like that person in there. I am here to make the right decisions for my child. So if you need to regroup, it's perfectly fine for you to ask for 5 minutes. Go out, regroup, take a deep breath, and then go back in. Never raise your voice. Try your hardest. Don't get angry. These aren't your enemies. Sometimes it may feel that they are because they think they know what's best for your child, but don't look at them that way. Look at them as, hey, you know what? They think red is the best color. I think blue is the best color. How can we come to a compromise? Always try and think of them that way. Think of them as the ally, not the enemy, that you want to work with these people and you want a good, lasting, trusting relationship with them. Getting mad does nothing for you. It'll damage the school relationship, and they will always say, oh, here they come again, and they won't want to give in to anything. You will fight for everything for your child. It's not worth it. It totally detriments the whole thing. Try your hardest to not get angry. You can get angry, and you can call them anything you want outside of that room, but inside of that room, you play nice. It is the best thing you can do for yourself and for your child. Dress to impress, too. Go in there. They're all going to be dressed like educators. So don't go in there in your sweatpants. Wear a nice pair of pants, a nice shirt. Go in there dressed to impress. It seems like a little thing, but it isn't. If you go in there and you've got your baggy sweatpants on that say Mom across the hiney, it's not a good idea. Try to go in there. You've done all your homework. You are ready to sit there. You want to be on an equal playing field to them. You don't want to look like a teenager. So make sure that you go in there dressed to impress. Almost think of it as an interview, but you don't have to wear a business suit. Sit amongst school personnel. Don't allow them to put you in a situation where you're sitting at one side of the table and everybody else is at the other side of the table. Typically when these meetings happen, everybody kind of is walking in at all different times. Try and just sit yourself amongst them. If it's impossible to do that, you could always move your chair over to be closer to, so sometimes you'll go in and it'll be a long table and there'll be 5 chairs across one side, 2 across the other. You could even say, I'm not really comfortable with the seating. Is there any way we could just kind of make it a round table or whatever? Those things are going to be personal. If you're okay with sitting across the table from everyone, then you're okay with that. Be comfortable in the meeting. And feel free to say, I'm kind of uncomfortable, I'm nervous. Is there any way we can just kind of sit together? Never sit in the little kid chairs. I've heard of people that have gone to IEP meetings and there have been little kid chairs and big kid chairs, and all the big kid chairs are taken by all the teachers that are already there, and they want you to sit in the little kid chair. Ask for a big kid chair. You do not need to sit in the little kindergarten chairs in a meeting. They are not to look down on you. They are to look even with you because you are all equal players at the meeting. All right. If you are a single parent, bring someone to support you. Do not go alone. It's intimidating enough. It's nice to have someone there. It's also always okay to ask for, you could have a deaf advocate come in with you. You could have, if your child is attending a private school or another school, you could have a school personnel person come from that. Schools come to your meeting. Just always let the school know, hey, I've invited this person, and this person. That way you're not in a room that's, well, we didn't expect 4 more people, so we're all squeezing into a small room. This way they'll have enough chairs, they'll have enough space for your guests as well. And by law, you are allowed to bring whomever you want to your meetings. You don't want to bring people that are going to be sounding off. You want to bring people that are there so that if you ask them, they're there for you. Otherwise, they're just there sitting. Maybe you have a note taker, the expert from the school. Typically, if they're good at what they do, they will wait for you to say, could you explain your program? And then they will jump in and they will explain their program. So that is my glance at transitions in 1 hour or less. So we've got 5 minutes or so. I'm going to open up to any questions that anyone might have. And I know I've thrown a ton of information at you. It's an occupational hazard for me. So if anybody has any questions that I can't answer tonight or that you don't feel comfortable asking, please feel free to email me at that illhandsandvoices@gmail.com email address, and I'll be certain to get back to you. So it's open if anybody has any questions.
Hi, my name is Anita, and I have some questions.
Go ahead.
I'm a new parent guide, and trying to collect information. I don't know if I missed that part or not, but when collecting information, I want to make the parents feel comfortable in addressing these meetings. Who should be involved in the meeting, or who should be resources?
Which part of the meeting are you talking about?
As a parent guide, trying to have information for the meeting when telling them they need to get more information for the IEP. Who should I ask? Hands and Voices, or I guess I'm missing something on that information. Who do I ask in order to become more familiar with the IEP?
Okay. You had it right. Hands and Voices can give you that information, but as a parent guide, Hands and Voices, Guide by your side, Hands and Voices go hand in hand. So at your annual training, I will be training on those things, or you will receive the training that I have provided prior to that. You will have all that information to be able to go out and provide your clients with, bits of information.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I'm extremely excited about doing this, and yes, I am new, so I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss something. Thank you very much.
Yep, not at all. And Anita, know that my line of communication is always open. So anytime you have any questions, and I think that Carrie can attest to this, that anything IEP advocacy related, kind of field that to me. I'm more than happy to answer those questions for you anytime.
Great. Great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
All right. Well, if there are no other questions, then we'll end tonight's call. We really appreciate, Andrea, your time tonight in giving us this training and giving us resources and helping us on our way. And I thank all of the callers that called in tonight. And again, if you have any questions or if you want to talk about this more in depth and you have a parent guide, please feel free to give them a call. Or if you would like to talk to Andrea or have a parent guide, that you could contact us through the Hands and Voices website as well. Well, thanks again, everyone. Have a great night.